Alright, so I'm back with some more Cult of the Lamb. I didn't realize that the world would start shaking if you were idling. But anyway, pretty much finished with the game now, but thought I would give some of my updated thoughts, show off what was accomplished, I guess a little tour of my cult, and go from there. I'm trying to maybe see if I can grind out a few more levels right here at the shrine thing. I don't think I'll get everything, but it would be nice to get a couple more. If I go in the temple, though, I think I've got everything now. Except I don't have all the fleeces. So yeah, right here, I've got all 4 of these. Final boss done, too. I feel like I almost locked myself out in my first playthrough. This is actually my second playthrough, kind of. I didn't finish the first. I didn't have this skill, which I think was kind of important, particularly for that playthrough, because I just kept dying and I was having a really hard time with the third and fourth areas. Second time around, it wasn't as bad. I don't know if I just got better or if I just more efficiently did everything, because I feel like timing, like I sort of sped ran the second playthrough. So, my cult members weren't dying as quickly. I had more resources, I felt like, because I had more cult members. And I also remembered to collect my bonus for leveling them up too, which I wasn't doing. So it definitely helped a lot. This wasn't necessarily as necessary, I guess, in the second playthrough. But it was still, it did get used once or twice and could be pretty important if you're struggling. And then, I don't know, the one I saved for last was this one. Just because I think a diseased heart, I don't know, I think it just goes away after you use it. So I figured I'd want to use it most against a boss, but I'll probably lose it by the time I get to a boss. So it sort of defeats the purpose, and it's a very similar thing with the hunger too. You just get extra hearts for eating, but they're temporary, that you'll probably lose before the point where you actually want them. Resurrection's kind of good though, a second chance. You don't get a lot of health though unless you sacrifice a really good cult member. I never had to use it necessarily. I mean, like I said, maybe in that first playthrough I should have used it, but yeah, I never did. I almost used it during the final boss, but I guess, spoiler alert, you can't. So, but yeah, the Fleeces, I only got one, I think. Sort of mixed on them. I think you got a couple extra too for beating the game, but I don't know, there's always like a positive and negative towards them, and I kind of agree with that sort of philosophy in that, but I'm more of a person that'll just go with the default, that even with some of the benefits, I'm worried I'm gonna fuck myself over with some, whatever negative effect I'm gonna wind up having. I think I did accidentally use this one when I got it, because I think it auto-equipped. And this one could actually be good in some circumstances. Like, I sort of noticed the next time I went on a run after that playthrough, I got less than 4 tarot cards total, so this one would have been handy in that run through the world. But rituals. Do we have anything we can really do now? So, actually, I should probably go to Doctrines before we go there. Mainly because the Doctrines affect what rituals you can perform. So, I guess sort of because I don't know, the way I sort of interpreted things, I don't think really, it made things a little more chaotic at a certain point, just through my own misinterpretations and assumptions. But I guess my thinking with this, let's see. Oh, so this first one in my first playthrough, you may have even seen it, because I think it was one of the first ones I did. I did the fasting ritual, and I don't know, I didn't really like it just because you would lose so much faith. So I wound up going with the feasting one this time, which gains you a ton of faith, and it refills their hunger, so works out pretty well. This is one I wish I did differently. I did the grass eater as opposed to the cannibal trait. And the main reason is because when I looked at, whether you're eating grass or you're eating, people, I guess, like the other stats that went along with that is I think you had like a 5% chance of getting sick with the grass, but like a 50 with the people. So I figured the grass would probably be better to eat, not realizing after you did this, I think it says right there that there is no negative faith. I think it also got rid of like the other negative aspect of eating that substance too. So I guess I'm curious. Maybe it would just lower with the cannibal trait, but yeah, I remember when I fed people grass, they were fine, and I think it had the percentage of getting sick crossed out. So this one was easy. I did the harvest. The other one's the Ocean's Bounty, just because I didn't really do the fishing. I think I just got done saying how so many games have fishing mini games, and I just wasn't in the mood for another one. And then this one affects the trait, or the effect after the brainwashing ritual. I don't really remember why I picked this one over the speeding up your work. I guess it does make sense because I was having a harder time maintaining faith as opposed to seeing everyone complete their tasks and whatnot. So then Law and Order, my thing with the first one, Ascend or Murder, is that if you ascend, you're increasing loyalty and stuff. And then with the Murder, it seemed like you had to do specific things to not sort of gain the attention of your cult members, negative attention. So I felt that would be easier to work with. After that, we had Wedding or Fight. Once I just sort of felt the same thing. I felt like the wedding would have more, gain faith and gain loyalty in that, as opposed to people putting them in death matches or whatever. I don't remember what the positive part of that would have been. For that, we have belief in original sin or belief in absolution. I never even built a prison, so it made sense to take the thing that improved your faith if you didn't have a prison. And then you have enforcer or tax, loyalty or tax enforcer, and I picked loyalty, just because at the time, I wasn't really that tight on money. That changed quickly, so I guess in retrospect, I kind of regret that, but it's too late now. It's sort of one of the negative aspects to it is you can't sort of reverse these decisions, but I guess at the same time it encourages another playthrough and changes things up within it, so I guess you can't be too mad. I get why. Possessions, this was really similar. It was either you gain money from followers or you can bribe them for more loyalty, and like I said, at the time, loyalty was more important for my cult. So that you have materialism or ideal or false idols. I think this was building sleep areas versus building decorations, and I didn't even bother with decorations too much. I bothered a little bit with the sleeping stuff. I tried to keep up in my first playthrough, but then I realized there really just wasn't a point, at least on this difficulty from what I've seen, because you would gain more rewards from waiting and then having them bring up a side quest for you to build them a bed. That way you gain loyalty from doing it, or even more because you had that side quest, an easy one to begin with. So this one is that you can give them money or they can give you money. Like I said at the time, I guess I was being a little, I was taking my money for granted because, like I said, this is another one. Because I could use money now, but at the time, didn't seem like it made as much sense. This is extra stuff for building a building or holding a sermon. I did the building just because I think this was one of the last, because I could still do sermons and increase his loyalty and faith, but we're pretty good in those departments right now. One of the other things you get was the upgrades, but I've maxed out all of those upgrades for your trips, like all your weapons and magic and stuff, and we're already set there, so it didn't really make as much sense. Work and worship, once again, I did faithful for more devotion as opposed to a better work speed, which I still agree with, because I still need devotion for those building upgrades and such. I have Inspire versus Intimidate. I mean, Inspire, like I said, I was doing a lot better after leveling people up, making sure I inspire them as much as I can. Intimidate could have worked too, but I only had one issue. I think it was because of a side quest too of someone being, not loyal. So, and then if that's the case, you just sacrifice them anyway. So that's at least my thinking on it. So you have Construction or Enlightenment, which would speed up, construction of buildings, or devotion being built up. Obviously, like I said, I was more worried about devotion, and like I said, I still agree with that. And then we got Glory through Toll or Holy Day, so a day off versus them working 3 days without getting tired. To me, that seems like a clear decision. Oh, I'm reading. I have like a guide up, so I remember what the ones I didn't pick were. It says plus faith, though, I guess, for if you give them the day off. But like I said, at this point, we were pretty good on faith. Devotion is, I guess, what we're more worried about, especially with rituals and that too. And the brainwashing one in specific it almost feels a little OP, because some of them there's just such a long cooldown from. But with brainwashing, there really isn't. Like, you might have to go a day between brainwashes, but a brainwash will last 3 days, and you don't have to worry about your faith then. Afterlife, this is where I almost really fucked up this playthrough. So we have Sacrifice versus Afterlife. Oh, I remember this decision now. It was, they'll accept a sacrifice, which you can only do a limited amount of times, and I wanted to build my cult to be as big as possible anyway, versus Belief in Afterlife, to where you lose less faith if they die, which, especially in that first playthrough when I had people dying quite often, it kind of helped there. And then Resurrection versus Funeral. Resurrection, definitely. That's another thing that feels OP, because if you do the Resurrection, not only do they maintain the level that they had when they died, but I guess from what I gathered, they're immortal at that point. So you're going to have them be really high level. You don't have to worry about them dying again and the repercussions of that. It's a really good system. The only bad part is, one of the people I resurrected, I didn't realize I was going through one of the last areas, and then I made it to a part where I had to give up one of my, because you can eventually summon demons from the people in your cult, and I thought maybe it was just this run I was sacrificing the demon / cult member to get an extra heart. No, it was a permanent thing. I mean, it's a permanent extra heart, but permanent losing that pretty high level cult member. Actually, it may have even only been a half a heart too, which was pretty bad. This one, you have Respect Your Elders versus The Good Die Young. So the way I thought about it initially was, okay, I normally don't want people dying around my cult. I try to sacrifice them, ascend them, and whatnot. So I went with Good Die Young, because that just makes sense, because I didn't want a lot of elders around. Well, it kind of fucked up, because like I said, it takes time to ascend. It takes time for, the cooldown for a sacrifice. So then I'm there, and then I'm having people dying off. The cooldown isn't going quick enough, and then everyone's getting, they're losing a lot of faith, because people are dying naturally. Luckily, I unlocked the Midas area, so then I just sacrificed them the Midas, which I think I didn't see a limit yet for it. I had it a little more under control when I got to that point, but yeah, that was a little frightening, I guess, for this playthrough. I was losing a lot of faith, and said I had brainwashing, had that sort of, worked out. But then you have that one day when they're not brainwashed. And then even just the fact that, I didn't do the thing where I can murder people, that could have also fixed that issue. I think there may have been one other decision I made along the way that could have helped with this thing too. And then you have Grief the Fallen versus Return to Earth. I wasn't really using fertilizer. I didn't even build any fertilizer things at the point when I made this decision. I don't know, 2 faith, and like I said, I have a better control of that now. It isn't really a lot, so maybe the fertilizer thing would have been better in the long run. For the time, it definitely made sense to do the other one. Okay, because how long was I standing here? I don't think we were ready for a sermon when I started. Oh yeah, because I did get enough. It was 0 all the way to 100. I actually forgot I even had a couple of these left. I have all like the main ones. I think it's literally just, the weapon masteries. Probably my favorite was probably either the axe or the sword, obviously, because they're the ones I upgraded. The dagger was probably my second least favorite. The hammer was by far my least favorite. I didn't like, having the slowness with it. The axe is kind of slower, but you have such a big range and it's fast enough. And then, sort of as a nice in-between. Gauntlets are a little weird, I guess, but they're kind of like, they're faster than a sword, but there's sort of a weird range with them, and then daggers don't have a good range, but they have that good speed. But I probably prefer the gauntlets to them. Just because, like I said, I would prefer the range of some of the other weapons to the speed that the dagger had. I feel like that worked out better. Oh yeah, because we can do pretty much all the rituals now, so let's see. Because like I said, the ones I was using in that, I used Bonfire a lot earlier, but then I didn't really need to once I started getting a hold of brainwashing. Might as well brainwash now. Oh yeah, that's the one bad thing about brainwashing is sometimes they'll get sick after. I wonder what happens, because I think I've told them to rest. I don't know if I've actually done a brainwash so quickly after the other. We'll see what happens. Will they be better now? Or not? No, they're still sick. Oh well. So let's see. Sacrifice. I think I see only one elder, so that's good. Because then we might not even need to do the ascend. I would definitely take the ascend at this point for higher levels as opposed to the other option. I'm just going to make sure. I think that's it, though. Yep. And level 6 is pretty high, too. Like, we might even be resurrecting him immediately. I don't know what our other options are, who we have left available to resurrect at this point. Oh yeah, because we have one more, too, before we finish this up. I really want to finish it up then, at least go through one more day, just for the hell of it. I have too many of the building upgrades, though, to really feel like investing there. I feel like that builds up a little slower. Glory through Toll, like I said, I didn't really have any issues with getting work done. I think I used it once when I was trying to grind through the, some of the devotion or whatever it's called to get the building upgrades, but it was only when I went for that grind. I never really needed that, especially once I automated my farms. That was definitely a savior. It felt so good with that and the cooking station to finally not have to do that all on my own. That was definitely very time-consuming. Yet your time is still kind of time-consuming here because you now have more resources that you're trying to, build at the different stations for the more rare items, and you have more followers to, just interact with in that. So it definitely evens out. There's a nice balance there with this. Feasting ritual I did earlier too, but especially once I got the cooking station, I haven't really felt that much of a need for it. Yeah, I don't think I've ever done that one. Like I said, faith has been pretty good, especially when you have the brainwashing. Devotion, I did the work and the devotion together, because then you have they'll never stop giving you devotion, and they're doing it a lot quicker. I'm not too worried about it now, though. Resurrection, let's see who we got. Oh, we have some competition. We have this other level 6. I think they're closer to leveling up to 7, too. So they're a little hungry, which I guess is not good, but does this person have a regular shirt? Because it's all mostly elders. And we have these two, too. I think it's that last one, they pit you against some of your cult members. I'm wondering if that's where they all probably came from. Remember, I was trying to resurrect those people in particular, too, because they were still young, not realizing the aging stopped, or that they would even revert back in age, but then after that point, it was like, well, you get so much more from having someone of a higher level. And also, it sort of depends on what demon you can summon from them, too. I think I'm going to go for the level. I mean, yeah, I don't plan to really do any more runs in the different worlds, so I guess the Seminole Demon doesn't matter as much now. Enforcer I mainly just did. Because I think they stay in Enforcer, though. But I did it once around when the brainwashing ritual was about to run out, and we were going to have that non-loyal person running around. I thought maybe that would help. I don't really know if it really did. At the same time, I don't know if it really affects, like, if you only have one of them. Maybe if you had more, you would see more of an effect. This, once again, I sort of stopped doing after I had the brainwashing ritual. Except it did come up like once or twice in a side quest. Right here, like I said, I don't think there's no more elders, so that was pretty useful, but for once we don't have anyone for it, so we'll just let that go. Getting donations after is pretty good too, especially once I started getting 50, because there's an area where you can buy new followers. Oh shit, I had people die from... What just happened? I guess that's why you don't do the brainwashing ritual that close in succession. Holy shit. I was not expecting that. Have we saved? I don't want to save after that. It makes sense now that I think about it, but at the same time, I guess they all just overdosed or whatever. At the same time, I think at this point, yeah, that's my original save I got stuck on. But at this point, I really don't feel like repeating myself there, especially now that it's post-game, so... Oh, well, I guess we're not going to max that stuff out unless I'm stuck from when that happened, if it did save after that. It's a good thing I sacrificed that trader then, I guess, because if I hadn't, then they would have been walking around right about now. Yeah, it didn't save. We lost everything from this session, at least, which wasn't much. And like I said, it's all post-game now. I'm just fucking around. I guess some other things I wanted to know right here. I did get the upgrades for these collecting areas, but I just thought it was better to add a second one, especially since you need rarer materials for the upgraded ones. That's the thing with this game, though. I noticed a lot of different tips and tricks, and I don't know. I didn't do a lot of research or anything, but I wasn't sure there was even a lot of agreements between, the most efficient ways to play the game, which I find kind of interesting, just the different ways people are streamlining their playthroughs. I think that's a very positive trait for a game to have. Like I said, we're kind of tight on gold. I kind of completely forgot that you can craft these into more gold. But yeah, I think, how much do we have? We have 92, that's better. It's still not fantastic, but that's better from where we were at. But then you have those like gold bars you need too, and I think we have several buildings, or like the upgraded ones that need them. So, at least it's as opposed to the regular coins. And then I gave Midas some of the gold bars too, which I kind of regret now. I mean, maybe if I was planning on seeing it through, it would make sense, but now I'm not, so then it was kind of a waste, because then he just asks for more. I think it will lead somewhere, but... Speaking of those other areas, though, I will say I did enjoy, I think it was called Knuckle Bones. It was sort of a fun little dice minigame they had. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It was a nice little break from... There's a good flow right here from taking breaks from running your cult and doing some of the dungeon stuff. But that was an additional fun way to play the game in that. Alright, what? So these are the upgrades I got for all the buildings, and there's so many, and then you need so much more. It feels like you said it was like 400 per now. It does eventually, like it goes up pretty quick, but then it sort of stabilizes for a while. It's the same with the other thing, but it eventually stopped going up at 100. But I guess my thoughts on some of the upgrades I didn't get, like I said, I didn't give a shit about decorations. I never took advantage of the missionary either, mainly because I was worried about losing cult members, because like I said, I wanted to build as big of a cult as possible, so never did those upgrades. It's another decoration. Prison, like I said, I've had good faith with one exception, and that was particularly because of a side quest I took, and like I said, I just sacrifice them anyway if it becomes an issue. I don't even know, are these just increased loyalty? That one could have been useful for them to work a little quicker naturally, but like I said, that was another thing that just wasn't a priority for me. Same thing here with sort of taking care of corpses, as I sort of mentioned before. The morgue did come useful, though. I remember going on, because if you complete an era, you can go back. It'll be more difficult, and it could be super long if you try to go through all of it, which is kind of recommended, especially if you have the thing where you can back out if it gets too hard. But yeah, I think a couple people died because that took a while. Although I feel like I was definitely a lot quicker this time around, especially once I got a hang more of dodging. That was definitely very useful to have. Definitely, I feel like helped sort of my speed and sort of, my health too. This is for more devotion. And I think this is too, so I don't really know what the difference is between them, so I just stuck with one. Like I said, the shelters. I decided to go with the one that generates devotion as opposed to the one that would serve as multiple shelters, because like I said, I would rather build them one at a time and get the easy side quest and extra loyalty and such for them. And that's pretty much all the upgrades. I guess we have room for one more. I guess should I do the missionary? So, oh no, I was about to say, would that then give every upgrade available for the next upgrade we have? But no, we're still missing some of the crypts and some of this other shit. Like I said, this could be useful, but like I said, I don't really intend to really do much more. I don't even know why I'm focusing too much on this. It's a waste of time. Like I said, I just plan to pretty much stop with this playthrough now anyway. Probably with the whole game in general. I mean, maybe I'll go back someday and go for like the opposite decisions I've made along the way, but I don't see that anytime soon. I guess the morgue, I did a lot of upgrades for stuff I kind of used. I guess at this point, if I was to play more, the morgue would be the most useful because I'd be going on those longer runs. Oh, there goes our, on this playthrough, our brainwashing. Yeah, I don't even think I'm going to save at this point. I'll probably just clean up. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to talk about or address. I feel like a lot more people got sick this time. Normally there was a couple. I think last time there was only like 3 or 4. This time it definitely feels like a bit more. I was just talking about how, well, my face is pretty good. Right now, not so much. I can easily change if I did another sermon or whatnot. I'm just trying to collect my thing here. He's mad at me. I guess I did interrupt his conversation in all fairness. I will say I was kind of surprised because I was originally not very happy about having to do another playthrough. Of sort of feeling kind of locked out of the one I was doing. It says there's a body in there, but nothing's happening. I probably already have to have one of these built, I guess. But I had something to do when I was out. It was like, so I just had my Switch on me to play, so then I just really just sped around, almost back up exactly where I was. Like, I think it said I was 5 or 6 hours in. I did it in like half the time. So like I said, that day I had a little over 2 hours to kill, and then I was only a little behind from where I was. So luckily, that wasn't as painful as it could have been. That's why things are a little organized a little differently on this one, too, if you remember how they were organized the first time. And I tried to be a little more efficient with stuff I was using or kind of related stuff near each other. I never got this to work. Oh, I don't think I ever tried. I guess that's what happens, and I guess it means that they're not sick anymore? Yeah. I just never used it for whatever reason. To me, I guess I had so many members, it wasn't really that big of a deal, especially if there was only a couple people that were sick, especially when you have such limited of these flowers without having to go through and do another round of that temple. Yeah, 7? Yeah, I think at most it was like 3 or 4 before. That's pretty bad. Like I said, and even then, like I said, sometimes you go through and you're sort of taking your time, but then when you go through it a little different and you sort of speed run it, it just feels almost completely different when you have that different approach, with a lot of different games, and this was included. And, luckily things worked out at the end of all of it across the board. I will say one thing I wasn't sure. Yeah, this looks like about everything. I guess there's some room. There's some clouds up here past the mushroom, the spore growth. grotto, whatever. So they do have limited time events, which I think is cool. I don't know if it's tied to the internet or just tied to your system clock. I don't know if they were ever planning to do an update for something there, or all the way up there could be room for another area too. So that was one thing I was just sort of thinking about, because I was trying to speculate as I was playing as to how many other areas they were to unlock. I guess it makes sense to have the 5 sort of around the 4 mainish areas you have to explore. But yeah, I wouldn't mind coming back to if they did some more stuff there too, if I by chance get word of it. I don't even know if I was saving here or not. It doesn't matter. I'm done now with it anyway.